This ended up being Jeffrey's last record with L.T.D, right?
Yes.
So when did that sort of get brewing? Was it apparent when this was being made that he might go solo, or how did that materialize?
He did give us a fair warning that he wanted to do a solo thing. So he promised us one more tour and one more album. So we did the album, and we went out and promoted it and toured, and that was his last album and last tour.
Was it the kind of thing where the label was urging him to do that, or was it kind of from within him? Or
well, he from what I understand, he had outside influences encouraging him to go out on his own, as well as, you know, putting it in his head and that sort of thing. And I imagine that, you know, when you have a large organization like that, that was democratic and wasn't run by just any one person, and after all those years together, you eventually get to the point, I would think anyway, that you want to do your own thing. And I just think all those things culminated, and he just made the decision, you know. I wished him well. I wished him, you know, I said, Jeffrey, go ahead, man, do your thing, man.
It was happening with a lot of groups around that time, from the 70s into the 80s, most notably with like Lionel Richie going on his own from the Commodores. And from my perspective, I felt like the labels were pushing a lot of that because they thought they could maybe, you know, have more hits this way or whatever. So I was just curious. I never knew how it went down with L.T.D. So,
well, I think you're onto something. I think one of the influences was certainly from the record company to give him the option, you know, and then of course there was a period when we were both on the label, so that of course benefits them. they now got you know, two acts that are known that they can push, but it is sort of a conflict of interest, and we realized that. So we made our last deal with them, knowing that it was the last deal because we knew they were going to pick him up. And so we made a nice, strong last deal with him, which we got a great production budget, and we were able to make our transition with singers and that kind of thing.
right. So that record without Jeffrey was Love Magic in '81. And you guys still had pretty good success with it.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a hit single, and the first half of that record is like a real like party kind of thing, and then the back half is more mellow. But Kicking Back was a real slamming funk song. Burning
By
Hot.
the way, Kicking Back is in the new Hugh Hefner documentary, American Playboy, along with a couple of other L.T.D. songs. We've had some great placement of songs this year. We have a couple, Holding On and Back in Love, I think, is in Big Boss Baby, the movie Boss Baby. So we've had some good success in the cycle of songwriting.
You guys you had Cutting Up on there, which I know was done by Jim O'Kane.
Right.
Did you guys do that first, or did he do it first, or how did that come about?
He did it first, and we heard it. Actually, I'm not sure if he released it before us, but we heard it as a demo, and we loved it. So we cut a deal with him to get it, and then we put it on there. I'm not sure if his came out first. It might have been almost concomitantly or right around the same time, but I believe it was a demo when we got it from him.
And I noticed you guys got more production credit on this one, and also Michael Stokes is listed.
Yes.
It was a co-production with Michael Stokes. He was A&R at the label at the time, and he was, you know, on our side and willing to help us because it was very crucial. Here we are with new lead singers and, you know, new stuff without Jeffrey. So it was very crucial, and he was helpful. He had great production ideas, and we sort of together put that record together.
And the lead singers were from another group, right?
New Birth.
Yeah, we had Leslie Wilson of New Birth, and then we had Andre, who was from the Dick Griffey stable over there, Solar.
So I'm guessing you guys maybe had some mixed feelings about this record because you're probably thinking it was an opportunity to really extend yourselves and do something different and have a new start, but also probably with Jeff gone, we're having mixed feelings about that. How did you feel about how the record turned out, and what were your thoughts about it?
I guess
Well,
in
for me,
hindsight, we could be proud of it. We knew it was an uphill climb. We were aware of that, after Jeffrey and, his influence. So what do you think, John?
well, for me, it was very different from anything that we had done together as a group. I mean, the tracks were done very well. Like Carl said, Michael Stokes had some great ideas, but cause Leslie Wilson had such a very strong, very distinctive voice, it took me a minute to kind of, get used to that. I mean, he's a great singer. Do not misunderstand me. Very strong, but I was kind of worried that people might mistake us for another group. So, but it turned out to be pretty good, so.
Here's a funny incidental story, Scott. The first review.
I know where you're going, girl. I already know where you're going.
The first review we saw of of Kicking Back was Osborne never sounded more gritty.
How'd you guys feel about Jeffrey's first record, and were you guys still friends?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The only thing that I can say I thought his record was great. I just thought he had moved away from where we all started in terms of music, the type of music that he was recording, but it was great music. I loved it, and of course his voice. As far as I'm concerned, Jeffrey is one of the most prolific, one of the greatest singers to this date. Not because I worked with him, not because he's a friend of mine. It just is, And I thought the music was great. He had some great players. He used all top guys, and it was fantastic. I just don't think it did for him what he would have liked it to do.
Yeah, he was always, I didn't say this before, but always and still one of my very favorite male vocalists.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I second that emotion totally. His voice is so unique. His phraseology, his approach. We used to hang out. I gave him trumpet lessons. His father played the trumpet, and we would kind of run around the track every morning. We talk about a lot of things. One time I asked him, "Hey, who influenced you, man? Where do you get? Because you're so different in your approach." And it was funny to hear his influences. It was Gloria Lynn, Sarah Vaughan, and people like that were his influences. And of course, we can't leave out Stevie Wonder, because who did he not influence? But and Donny Hathaway. If I were to name 4 or 5 people, those would be the ones that he said were big influences on him. And you can hear a little of it, but again, he's totally different from all of them. I hear a little bit of everybody's influence.
Wow. Yeah, those are great influences, but he is a unique talent himself. So you guys left A&M, ended up on Montage Records. I'm not sure what that was part of, but did another record in '83 for you. And John, were you not involved in this one, or were you still?
I left the group shortly after that, and actually I toured with Jeffrey for several years after that. For me, things just weren't. Again, L.T.D. was great. One of the reasons L.T.D. was great was because it was a democracy. Well, when you are in a democracy and decisions are being made that you don't particularly with, what do? You leave the democracy, and that's what I decided to do at that time. And I was with Jeffrey for several years after that. Although I eventually came back to L.T.D., but that's what happened during that time. Was
Jeffrey doing a lot of L.T.D. songs as part of his act at that time?
Jeffrey will never be able to get away from that. I mean, that was the height of his success, and he can't, even to this day. The most audience response he gets is from the old LTD material. He'll never be able to get away from that.
And Carl, you were credited as producer on this record, and what was going through your mind at the time, and what do you recall about the experience now looking back?
Well, production to me is always exciting and daunting, but exciting. We were lucky enough to do it at Kent Duncan Studio, which I'm sure you know is the premier studios where Quincy recorded. We actually used Quincy's producer on the record. So that in itself was just like being in heaven, and to go through the process. But again, choosing songs and performing them and producing them was a daunting experience, but very educational. And I've gone on to produce other people and other stuff. In fact, I'm in the middle of a production right now, but it's just my life and I love it. So I didn't think too much outside of it. I was in the middle of it, enjoying it and solving the problems. That's why I didn't have the overview of, if it was going to work or how great it was. And that's how I live my life, I live it from the inside out. Like one of my friends said, man, you're not a musician. You are music. And I kind of thought about that. And he's right, because I don't know how to do anything else. Don't ask me to change a tire. Don't ask me to do nothing else. But music has been my life, and I love every moment of it.
Well, that record was a real reflection of the time. So many groups at that time were being heavily influenced by Prince and the Minneapolis sound coming in, and the move to the synthesizer and away from the horns.
True. Yes.
How did you feel as a horn player, kind of with that transpiring?
Yeah, I mean, as a horn player, I was starting to get displaced. On as a sideman, as a sessioneer, you were getting displaced by. But at the same time, you knew it wasn't real, and it was just kind of a flim flam put over on the audience. Like replacing horns with synthesizers. I love sound and I love synthesizers. I love the study of it, the science of it. But I mean, it's not a replacement for a live musician. And we always felt that way. And then that's where the trend went. Horns became a little obsolete and out of fashion, and the synthesizer sort of took over. But, those are periods that we go through in music, or any other genre for that matter.
So why did that end up being the last L.T.D. studio record?
I think attrition, just years and years, and it was time. And also the music industry was changing. And as you know, it has totally changed. So it became almost not, it wasn't sexy anymore to be out there trying to, get record deals and the whole structure of deals. Now record companies wanted you to produce all of your stuff totally and bring it and make a deal. So they weren't giving any record budgets to produce records, and you had to come up with your own money and do it, and that brought other problems on, the management borrowing money and stuff.
Not only that, back in the day, record companies used to I don't want to say support the acts, but they used to lend a helping hand to the act. Artist development is the words I'm looking for. There's no such thing as artist development anymore. There's no A&R departments anymore. People consider writing a song, making a beat. It's just changed so drastically. When somebody tells me, yeah, I wrote this song and it's just a beat, that, do not misunderstand me. I'm not putting today's artists down, but it's almost insulting to a person like me to come from where I've come from, where I've seen music come from, to consider a beat the entire song. I just don't get it.
No argument here, John.
Well, I was surprised when I heard a kid call rap music. And then I had to wrap my head around that, no pun intended, that this is their music. This is what they
Yeah.
call music, so I have to go with that. This is their music. It's not music to me. It's street poetry with rhythm. And that's fine. But if you want to call that music, then it's your music. Go ahead.
But Carl, it's been around since we were kids. I mean,
Well,
the
Louis
difference is,
Jordan probably was back in the
well,
30s was
not only
rapping.
Louis Jordan, but Red Fox,
Yeah, yeah.
Last Poets. Come on, those. But at the time, they were X-rated, and they were put in a special part of the record store. And as a
Right.
kid, we had to
Right.
sneak and listen to them, and our parents weren't, that sort
Blowfly.
of thing. But it's been around forever. It's been around forever.
Yeah.
So
Rudy Ray Moore.
jumping ahead several years, the end of the 90s, you guys had an issue. There was some group that was saying L.T.D or something like that. Just real quickly, can you kind of encapsulate what happened there?
I don't know quite how to put this, but at any rate, L.T.D had stopped performing and that sort of thing, and I was feeling the urge to attempt to, keep the name going, keep
Revise. Yeah.
going, and so I started looking around for people who could, I thought were qualified to do an L.T.D show, and inadvertently I shared my idea with this one particular person and probably a little bit too much information. And he took it. It was a guy out of DC, and he took it and he kind of ran with it. And by the time I found out, because he kind of kept it under wraps until somebody else discovered it and called me. And by the time I heard anything about it, he had put together some sort of album. He had bootlegged photos. He had tried to take the name and that sort of thing. And then I got blamed. I got blamed for it until I was able to explain myself and tell what happened, and that at the particular time I didn't know anything about it until they made me aware of it. And fortunately, Lorenzo Carnegie was able to take it into court and squash it and win the case and put a squash to all of it. So that's how that happened. But I
As an
guess if I must
addendum,
take
as an
what?
addendum to his story, just fortunately for us, the judge and court that adjudicated the case was a big L.T.D fan, married on Love Ballad, had children, I mean, conceived children on our music. So took big offense to what had been done and
Yeah.
awarded us our trademark and all of that stuff.
Nice. Had a happy ending.
Had a very happy
Yeah.
ending.
How did you guys feel about George Benson when he had the big hit with his version of Love Ballad?
I have a connecting story. We were on the Cool Jazz Festival, and he was on the Cool Jazz Festival, and of course that's probably where he really checked out Jeffrey and heard Love Ballad, fell in love with the song. And I remember seeing him, and then he put the song out and he had a hit with it. And I remember seeing him at another Cool Jazz, and I said, George, you sped it up. He said, yeah, man, I recorded that thing and I went back and listened to Jeff. Man, I had to go back in the studio. There was no way I was going to I had to do something totally different with it, and I said,
Yeah.
okay, great. Well, I told him I love it. A great song, great performance.
Yeah. Just a couple more questions. I really appreciate you guys spending the time. Looking back on the incredible body of work that you guys did, can you each pick one album, and I know it's going to be hard, but one song that you're most proud of or is your favorite?
Oh man, that's you putting us in Solomon's seat now.
Well, you know what? I was particularly impressed and completely fell in love with a song that we did, "Promise Me." I to this very day, I love the arrangement. I love the vocal arrangements of that song. I love what JD did with the music. I mean, it still blows my mind to this day. "Promise Me."
Oh yeah, wonderful song. That song and the one I mentioned, "Love Me in the Winter," those are my two favorite songs on that album.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Those are beautiful. Not that they're so commercial or anything, but just the lyrics and the crafting of it. You know,
Yeah,
it's just so
absolutely.
perfect.
As the song as the song is sung, you can actually see the scenario. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I mean, it was just amazing.
I would have to. It's very. I mean, I'm feeling like Solomon now, where I've got to make a big choice of life and death. But I probably would have to go back to Love Ballad. You know,
Yeah.
it was just so perfectly produced and performed. I mean, even my little part was so small in this record, but yet it was just so great. I played a flugelhorn that I had just bought from was a European rotary valve flugelhorn. It's a funny looking, strange military looking brass instrument, but it sounds like a mini French horn. It had the most beautiful timbre, and it worked out so great. And I mean, that had a lot to do with the way I feel about it. But when I think about sitting on the string sessions, they were just incredible. You know, the performance. We had the top string section in town. Um, and Wade Marcus's arrangements were just amazing. So I would have to say that, and because that's probably one of the songs that I hear the most, I never get tired of it. I never feel differently about it. It puts me in the same space every time I hear it. You know, if I want to feel good, all I have to do is put that record on and remember the sessions and remember. Now, here's one weird thing about it. Um, that night that we had to do the vocals, the producers were a little uh, delinquent, I'm going to say. And we're sitting around the studio waiting. Everything is done. Now all we need is for Jeffrey to put the crowning moment on it. And we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. Finally, 5 o'clock in the morning, Jeffrey gets to, and we're sitting there from 8 o'clock. Jeffrey did that vocal at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you know, for a vocalist, that is a death knell to have him sit up all night and then do a lead vocal early in the morning. That's the worst thing you can ask for a vocalist. But he nailed that, man. And even with all those circumstances, it just came out like a diamond, you know.
Yeah.
And as much as I love much of the other music, one is an unsung one. That Hello Mother, oh man. And the one other one on the first record that starts off with this scene on the beach. I just loved God. I can't think of the name of it, but it's probably outside of the hits is one of my favorite, just because JD's writing and his arrangements, man, that man could arrange.
Oh,
It was just incredible.
JD was amazing. He was amazing.
Amazing. And had the patience of Job. JD would sit with somebody for hours and hours till he understood and got what the essence of it was. I mean, one by one, he would do this, and then section by section, and then we'd have, you know, the whole thing.
Wow. You know, I wanted to hold this up so everyone can see. This is an awesome collection. Came out this year. Has 4 of those 5 records on there. It doesn't have the first one with Love Ballad, but it does have the other 4. Highly recommended. But John, I'll put you on the spot once more. You mentioned a track, but if somebody said, "Hey, I can only get one L.T.D. album," which one would you tell them?
Probably the one with Back in Love on it.
Okay, Something to Love.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I would have to go with. I mean, it was our biggest record, and that's what most people know us from to this day. I mean, even today when we do a show, when that particular music starts up, everybody is on their feet, you know, and they sing it word for word. So I would say that one.
The Love Ballad and Back in Love crossed over to pop. Did you guys feel like you should have had more crossover, or were you fine with the way it went?
You know, that's not our call to make. Yeah, you would wish everybody wants to cross over, you know, because that's your wider market, that's your pop market, you know, and you have to transcend your own genre to get there, at least as black music is set up. James Brown, you know, we can go down the line of people that prove that. Once you rise to the top of your category, now you cross over, and then everybody sees it, and then it
Yeah.
becomes even bigger.
Yeah, I concur. I think the way for especially a black artist to cross over is to stay true to his own music, his his home
Yes,
base.
absolutely.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So many instances of bands not doing that and ultimately fading away.
Yes.
So, hey, so where are we today? Are you guys performing? Are you playing? Are you planning to? What is happening with LTD as we know it today?
Well, we're
LTD
alive and
still,
kicking and
yeah.
working when we can. We've only worked, I don't know, we've worked every year, let me say that, at least once or twice. Um, and we're working to work this year, working on it. And if we're lucky, we'll probably will have a gig or two. But if not, we'll work next year. We definitely will work again. And we are putting together an organization that is going to help us do that, and
Yeah,
we're looking forward to that.
we're in negotiation with management now, so hopefully that'll work for everybody and it'll be successful. And that's what we're working towards, and that's what we're looking forward to.
John, you play a lot of blues too, right?
At this stage of the game, I play pretty much anything they put in front of me. Yeah, I've worked with quite a few blues acts. One of my favorites, his name is Johnny Rawls. He's one of the, in my opinion, he's one of the only left soul bluesmen in the world, and he's quite prolific. And I mean, the man is an amazing artist, performer, and song. And he's also my very, very, very good friend. Another one is James Armstrong. And currently, I'm working with a gentleman by the name of Bernard Allison, who has a
Oh, yeah.
very famous
Luther
father.
Allison.
Luther's son, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's correct. That is correct. And these are all top guys. I love them to death, and it's working out really well for me.
Excellent. And Carl, you also teach. Did I hear that right?
I do. I've done stuff for the Tennessee Arts Council and Tennessee school boards and Georgia as well. Um, I've done stuff like, um, teach physics in music classes to show what the real ingredients of music are. And and I've also worked with many blues acts and rap acts. I've done, you know, movies and a bunch of commercials and stuff. I did all the Ray Charles commercials. I was in those big bands with You the Right One, Baby. I did all the Bo Nose Nike commercials back in, you know, the day. And I toured with Little Milton. I was toured with Solomon Burke off and on for 20 years.
Oh,
And so I love playing the blues and blues artists as well. And also I've toured with, you know, other pop acts like the Temps and, you know, whenever I did a lot of work with the Phoenix Horns, as you know, with the Earth, Wind, and Fire horn section, which would contract themselves out to artists to do touring. So I did the Temps tour with them. And, you know, I've done a lot of stuff like that. And
wow.
I worked with LL Cool J for a couple of years. I was with him during Mama Said Knock You Out, did the Grammys with him and all of that stuff. So that was pretty exciting. But nothing has been as exciting as LTD in my life.
Oh
And
yeah, absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
always been my priority.
And how can people best keep track of both of you guys and LTD collectively?
Well, I do have a Facebook page, and that's one way. Our management is very social media savvy, so they're trying to get us to get into the Twitters and all of that stuff, and I'm sure that's necessary these days. So that will be possible soon as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you have any parting message you'd like to get out there to all these fans who you've met so much in their lives? And, you know, you start getting misty-eyed when you think about it because it touches people so much.
You're about to make me do that, man.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we owe everything to people that hear us. If we just make the music and nobody hears it, it means nothing. It has no meaning. It's from soul to soul that it works. It's us communicating to another soul. And when I see people evoke to laugh or cry, that just makes it for me. Because, I mean, I figure we're like prophets. And a prophet is never realized in his own hometown. He's got to go out. People think he's crazy when he's walking around talking stuff in his own house. You got to go out and speak to people and move people. And when I go across the world and do that, I know that I was not supposed to be a doctor. I was supposed to be a musician, doing just what I'm doing, speaking soul to people. And that's what I try to do every day, improve myself. I'm only a journeyman musician. I don't consider myself any star or any this or that. I'm a journeyman musician that studies and practices and try to get better every day. To maybe, you know, take heed to that. Be very honest with your thoughts and your output, and stick with it. Stick with your guns and believe in yourself. And believe me, if you do that, good things will happen. It's just the law of the universe.
Carl, I disagree with you. I think that you are a doctor of music, as all of us are. You know, I mean, we go all around the world, and you know, I believe that music has healing properties, and people live their lives through some of the music. I mean, you're just doctors of music, man, and that's how I feel about it.
Well, I could go on for days about that because I have studied neuropsychology and the neurology of music. And it's in the last 10 years, it has gotten so huge. And what we have learned, the power of music, we've always known it was mysterious and divine. But to understand how it helps stroke victims and how it brings
absolutely.
people back. And it's it's a mystery that we probably will never know all the answers, but we know it works and we know it is very effective. And just imagine a world without it.
Yeah, music healed. Absolutely.
Well, it certainly has touched so many millions over the years from you guys. And talking with you today, you know, I can see how it permeated the group, that honesty of L.T.D. and that authenticity, you know, and positivity. So thank you so much to both of you guys again. Thank you so much for sharing your time and for telling these great stories. And keep on with L.T.D. We need to see you guys out there again.
All right, Scott, thank you.
The thanks to Scott.
Hey, I have to say, the wait was more than worth it. I certainly learned a lot and hope you got as much of a kick out of those stories and incredible musical histories I did. As much as I love L.T.D.'s recordings, thanks to these candid insights, they now have another special layer of meaning to me. What an amazing, enduring body of work. A huge thanks again out to superlative musicians, Carle Vickers and John McGhee. And also, as always, a sincere thank you to you, our viewers and listeners. Thank you so much. Be sure to look out for upcoming Truth and Rhythm episodes and catch up with previous installments at funkinstuff.net, on YouTube, iTunes, and other leading providers. Subscribe to Truth and Rhythm. Go to the Funkin' Stuff channel on YouTube and hit subscribe. If you've already done so, get a friend or family to do so. Support the show, support the great musicians, funk, R&B, jazz, soul that's featured on this show. Show the love. Much appreciated. And I want to hear from you. Keep hearing from more viewers all the time, and it's so much fun and welcome. I love to hear from you. So write me at scottg@funkinstuff.net. And you should see that on the screen right about now. Keep that flow coming. You know, the show's for you, so it's all about the feedback and support. For now, until next time, as always, this is Scott, Dr. Jeffrey Osborne saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.